Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our live video. May is National Foster Care Month, so to celebrate, we are going live with a very special guest who not only plays an integral role with foster youth, but also has a bit of a Boys Town story herself, being one of our alumna. So, welcome, Kristen Vance, to the live. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Gabby. How are you?
Good. It's wonderful to have you on. Chris and I have worked together for a few years now, and I just recently found out that she was a Boys Town alumna. So the minute I found out, of course, it's May, it's foster care month. So what better guest to have on our live here today? So Chris and I are going to go through a few discussion questions here. So if you're watching live and you have a question for Kristen on her Boys Town story or anything related to foster family services, you can always leave it in the comment section of this video, and we'll go ahead and save time here at the end to answer live. And make sure you like this video, of course. Okay, so Kristen, our first question here, would you please tell us more about yourself and your role at Boys Town?
So my name is Kristen Vance. I've been at Boys Town about almost 3 years already. It's flown. It's the best place I've ever worked. So I'm a foster and adoptive mom to 3 girls currently, a 3 and a 7-year-old foster sisters. And then I adopted my 14-year-old out of foster care when she was 7. So I've had her all 9 years that I've been fostering. And then right now I currently work at Boys Town as the recruiter, trainer, and licenser of foster parents. So kind of my experience with being a foster parent helps me to train other foster parents in a better way. So
yeah, definitely. So let's rewind a bit. Before you got to where you are today as a foster family services trainer, recruiter, and licenser, you were a Boys Town youth yourself. So tell us more about coming to Boys Town at age 14 and what that was like.
Yeah, so I was privately placed by my parents. I was in a house full of girls who were mostly there as state wards or placed by the court because of their behavior. I was placed more because I had a lot of trauma in my childhood. And because of that, I had a lot of emotional deficits and I failed 8th grade. Despite testing at college level, I didn't turn in my homework. Like I would do it and just leave it in my backpack just to be, I don't know why, but that's what I would do. So I failed 8th grade and just had a lot of emotional problems. I remember when I came to Boys Town, my mom cried, but I was like feeling this sense of relief, like a heavy weight had been lifted. So, yeah, I don't know what else. But.
Yeah, that's great. So what was it like to live on campus? If you could describe your time in the family home program, what it was like going to school at Boys Town, being involved, what was that like?
So Boys Town, I knew kind of from the minute I got there that it was different. Like it was just a different place. A small example is when I was moving into the home, I was carrying a box of belongings and it was like pens, pencils, papers, a bunch of stuff. I tripped and spilled it everywhere, made a mess. And every single girl in the home came and helped me immediately. No one laughed at me or made fun of me or made jokes out of it. They just helped me pick it up. And that's when I knew like, this is a different environment. It's a family. It's not, an institution. It's not the home that I was used to. It's a real family. And so I knew it was different. When I first started going to school at Boys Town, I remember I would like look at the ground when I walked. I had no self-esteem. I would sit in the bathroom stall during lunch to eat because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have enough self-esteem to go reach out to people. I still am a little shy sometimes. And now I'm a recruiter. Look at that. But my family teachers worked with me, got me involved in choir, band. I did all the nerdy things like choir, band, newspaper, yearbook, and flag corps were the kind of the 5 things I did. And during that time, like my self-esteem just grew. We worked on social skills. I remember we had a phone booth in our house. Any girl who's been at Boys Town remembers these, but it was just a little area with a landline phone. And they would have me just randomly call kids from school to try to make friends and invite them over or talk to them or have a conversation. And just taught me like skills like that, that I hated doing it at the time. But as an adult, I'm thankful because it's made me a more social and outgoing person. And then also like on the needs side of things, they took care of my braces, foot surgeries, allergy shots, and glasses. They noticed things that my parents didn't notice. So they got me the help I needed. They noticed my lips were chapped, so they got me allergy testing, just stuff like that, that normally, I mean, I was 14 and none of that had been addressed. So just took care of a lot of that extra stuff as well as the mental health needs and stuff. So
What was your favorite extracurricular you did of those?
flag corps.
Yeah.
And I mostly did it to get out of marching band, but we won't talk about that. But it was fun. Flag corps was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like what you said too about, being in the phone booth and having to make those calls, because especially as a foster parent now, you just told me right before we went live, you got like 3 different phones and you're probably making calls all day. So imagine if you hadn't done that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It has definitely helped with my phone skills.
Yeah. The next question here is, describe your relationship with your family teachers. And maybe for those who aren't super familiar of what family teachers are, if you could describe what that is also.
Okay, so at Boys Town, at least when I was there in the 90s, each home typically had a teaching couple who were called family teachers. They were basically the mom and the dad in the house, and then 8 girls or boys, 6 to 8 girls or boys, depending on what house you were in. And then they had an assistant family teacher also who would come and work in the evenings and then give the family teachers every other weekend off. So my family teachers, I say that I have the best family teachers. I had the best family teachers, and I was lucky enough to be in their home all 4 years that I was there. So I remember when I first walked into their home and it was like bedtime, all the girls were giving them bedtime hugs. And I remember standing back in the corner and just being like, I don't deserve that. I'm not worthy of that. And they hugged me anyways. And that just describes them. That's who they are. In the 4 years I was there, they loved us unconditionally. It was more than a job to them. And they would read our referrals, but not let that decide whether they accepted us into their home. They would basically accept us blind, saying basically like, if God wants them to be in my home, they'll be in my home. And we had a really good home. Like, we had 4 girls graduate together the year I graduated in our home. So it was a very successful home. I remember we always got the special guests coming over too, but that's another story because, we were cool. No. And so I was super close to them in high school, and I'm still super close to them today. When I graduated college in California, they flew from Texas to California for my graduation. When their son died in 2014, I drove to Texas for his funeral. And just last month, I spoke at a banquet here in Grand Island, and they came to support me at that banquet. So it was really cool. So we're family, and I love their kids. They have 4 daughters still that are around, and we have a relationship with all of them. So, and they consider my daughter their grandkid and sent her presents, and just, it's kind of cool. So
it really is a family.
4 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you learn from them as your FTs, and how did they kind of help you succeed in your 4 years at Boys Town?
I learned a lot. At Boys Town, when I was there, at least, we would just start with basic skills like how to follow instructions, how to accept feedback, how to accept no. My biggest ones were turning in my homework and just following instructions, how to accept feedback without crying or getting emotional, that kind of thing. I learned a lot of social skills from them. We had a lot of dinner guests, like I said, like we had Newt Gingrich come to our house. We met with the Harlem Globetrotters. We had a radio host come, I can't remember her name, but we just had a variety of people. And we were taught like how to introduce ourselves when someone comes in the house. Anytime you walk in a Boys Town house, you're going to have 8 kids shaking your hand and telling you their name. So they taught me basically how to be human and what it's like to love and be loved. Because that wasn't something I was used to. So I say they saved my life, and it's not an exaggeration. They really did save my life. So.
Yeah. I mean, for our donors watching that, just to hear a true success story, we share so many on our social media pages over the years, but, when our kids and our graduates say, Boys Town saved my life, they're not just saying that.
It's real. Yeah.
So the next question is, you graduated in Boys Town in 1999, and we actually just celebrated graduation here at Boys Town the week before last. So looking back, how did graduating from high school change your life for the better?
Yeah, I was just thinking like the 23rd was my 24 years out of Boys Town. So I failed 8th grade due to a lack of my effort. So for me to be able to walk across the stage with a diploma and I think it was like 3.43 GPA or something like that was a huge accomplishment for me. And it's not because I got smarter or because anything else changed. It's because I was in a safe environment and I had structure. We had homework time every day after school. We had someone keeping us accountable, checking our homework. If we didn't turn it in at school, they told on us and we got consequences when we got home. So it wasn't that anything changed within me. It was the outside forces that had helped me to be successful. And then I've always said, like, as a foster parent, when kids aren't safe or when they're going through a lot of stuff, they can't learn. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that in my own foster kids, like their mind is not on school. It's on how do I keep myself safe? What am I going to eat next? Those kind of things. And it's not until they're in a stable environment that they can learn. And that's kind of what happened with me when I went to Boys Town. So,
yeah. So transitioning, into your adult life and talking more about your role now, what inspired you to become a foster parent, back in 2014?
So it's funny, ever since I was little, I've always said I wanted to adopt.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I thought childbirth sounded awful, honestly, as a kid. Yeah. But as I grew up, it became a way to give back for what Boys Town did for me. And also, I don't want kids to go through the same thing I went through. And I want them to know like the love of a mom and the love of a family. And my goal is basically to be the mom that I needed when I was a kid to these other kids, and to build that attachment that they need, and break the cycle of trauma in their life. So I'm hoping with my daughter, she's 14 now, I'm hoping that we've broken that cycle and she can grow up to be a healthy mom and raise good, healthy kids. And even the kids I say goodbye to, that I will have had some kind of positive impact in their life. And they'll look back at me like I look back at the Acevedos and say that I made a difference in their life. So, yeah.
So what's your favorite part about being a foster parent?
My favorite part is hands down. There's a couple parts, but the biggest one is like watching them experience their firsts. Like my daughter, I got her first Christmas tree at age 5. I taught a kid to eat an ice cream cone. I took a girl skating for the first time. Just those kind of things, celebrating a birthday with them when they haven't had a birthday party their whole life and they're 7 years old and having their first birthday party. Those are my favorite. Taking kids on vacation with me and watching them experience all of the fun at the amusement parks and the museums and all the places we go. And then my second favorite part is reunification, if it happens in a healthy way, which honestly, sometimes it does not. But currently, my 2 little ones are leaving in 2 weeks, actually, to go live with their dad several states away. And it's a good thing for them. And I'm very happy to watch them go. I'm sad because I've had them for a year. But watching them go to their dad where they belong is a huge reward for me as a foster parent, because that's the goal of foster care, is reunification. And yes, we have to end an adoption when stuff isn't safe, but I love seeing families reunified like that. So yeah,
special. And just to be a part of their journey, even though they are going back and you've enjoyed having them, they'll always remember their time with you. And how
yep. And I told them I'm their aunt now. So the 7-year-old has actually started calling me Auntie Kristen. And then the 3-year-old still calls me mom, but yeah. But I just told them I'll be an auntie, and then you'll live with your dad and your stepmom, and they'll be your mom and dad. And yeah, so I get to still be in their lives and do video chats and stuff. So it's awesome to have a good relationship with the family and be able to build that rapport so you can keep in touch and be a support. So that's another really good part about it. So
yeah, they're lucky to have had you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have had them.
So what made you want to come back and work for Boys Town?
So some kids that I went to school with kind of see Boys Town as just a blip in the radar, a little small part of their story. But for me, I see Boys Town as my home, and Boys Town as a place that saved my life. So some kids, it's a group home for them. But for me, it's my family and I consider it home, and it's a calling for me to work here. I feel like working here specifically with foster parents, I can share my experience as a foster parent and then also share my experience as a teen who was also out of home care, and help these kids to know, like, you're okay. You're going to get through this. You can grow up to be successful despite what's happening right now in your life. There's a future after this, you know? So, and while I'm just a licensor, recruiter, and trainer, and I don't work with the kids as much as my coworkers do, I have an impact on the foster parents themselves, which is key because they're the ones helping these kids. And so I can help them kind of see both sides of the story. So,
Yeah. So we just have a few more questions here for Kristen. So if you're watching live and you have a question, make sure you leave it in the comments so we can get to it here in time. So how does your time as a Boys Town youth help you serve as a better foster parent and trainer than you would maybe if you hadn't gone to Boys Town?
I learned a lot of, like we talked about earlier, a lot of social skills here, how to follow instructions, how to accept feedback, how to introduce myself, how to accept no. These are all skills that you need in a job and as a trainer and recruiter and licenser. And then the social skills to be able to reach out to complete strangers, go into their homes, have full conversations with them, first time meeting them. Those are important skills in my job. Those calls I had to make in that little phone booth have come in handy, because don't tell them I said that, but I still give them grief for it. But just all those little skills add up into changing the person that I am. And so they've all kind of helped me become a better foster parent, a better recruiter, trainer, and licenser. And I've been able to see firsthand the kids that we teach today transformed through the same skills I was taught as a teen. So it's really kind of cool to know as I'm training them that they actually work, because they worked on me. They worked on all the girls in my house. And so I'm training these foster parents with confidence, knowing that they'll work for their kids as well. So.
Yeah. The next question we have is, oh, I lost track. Sorry. Oh, here we go. What would you like people to know about fostering during National Foster Care Month?
So I think the biggest thing to know is that you do not have to be perfect to be a foster parent, because I feel like people feel like, oh, I don't have a big enough house, a big enough car. I don't have enough time, enough energy, enough money, enough this, enough that. I have a lot of flaws, and they'll always be there, partly because of my childhood, but still those have helped me to become just a better parent, because I know what these kids are going through. And the second thing that I want people to know is that attachment is important. And the biggest reason I hear for people not fostering is that they're afraid that they'll get too attached and then have to say goodbye, which I'm dealing with right now. I did get too attached, but that attachment is vital. And that's going to help these little kiddos to form relationships with their mom, their stepmom, their dad, other adults in their life, and to be able to have healthy relationships. So being afraid to get too attached means that you probably would be a good foster parent if you know that that will happen. So yeah. And I don't feel like kids are going to remember what car I drove or what house I lived in or any of that, but they're going to remember that they were loved and that they were safe and that they were taken care of. So you don't really have to have it all. You have to have a place for them to sleep, a place to put their stuff, and be able to provide a safe and loving home. So
right. It's not about the things. It's about love. Definitely. Yeah. We have one more question for you, Kristen. So for all of our supporters and donors watching, what would you like to say to them?
I would just like to say, like, my story is just one out of a sea of thousands. And there's thousands more stories just like mine. I just have a platform because I work here, but Boys Town literally saved my life, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to repay that. So I appreciate anybody who donates to Boys Town or helps out Boys Town in any way, because you're not just donating to an institution, you're donating to the lives of these kids, and that is life-saving. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me so that I can share my story today.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you to all who watched. We really appreciate your time. And Kristen, for sharing your story, both from beginning to end. It's very inspiring for a lot of us, and we're grateful to have you. So,
Thank you, Gabby.
yes. Well, everyone, have a great rest of your day, and make sure you tune in to our next live video. Thank you so much.